Hi everyone, I'm Sunny and today's video will be about Neptune in the 6th house, 6th, I can never say that right, house, or if you have Neptune in Virgo. I hope this video helps you when you think about this in your natal chart, or even it can also apply when it comes to transits. So some of the interesting things when it comes to the work houses, because this would be like, I mean there's different houses too, like the 2nd, 6th, and the 8th, and the 8th, the 10th. It's more so, I think that because it's the 6th house, I'm gonna struggle to say this word. I think it's because you're going to well, let me put it this way. You're going to realize that from time to time you're going to have creative jobs, which is great and fun, but they might require you to have some discipline in you to to basically show up in them. So let's say, example, you are a painter and you're like, well, I feel inspirational this day to paint, right? Or to prep my canvas, to buy my stuff, but then you're like, well, I don't really feel like I'm in the mood today. Like on the spot, you could be like, well, it's one of those things where if you're not in the mood to basically feel inspired to do something, you might struggle. So with this placement, you're gonna notice that you're either really good and regimented, or you're not necessarily good at keeping that day-to-day routine when it comes to providing that little effort in your part to actually come through when it comes to your daily routines that are small, like those menial annoying tasks and organizational things that you need to do are not always going to be your cup of tea. Sometimes you'll have great transits where you can actually do really cool and innovative ideas and really, be on top of your game, but there's going to be other times where you're just, it's not necessarily in extremes, but rather if your body is up for it to actually work, it'll be great. But at the same time, you might not know your boundaries when it comes to work either. So whether you're overworking too or not, or underworking, and depending on others to basically pull through when it comes to like teamwork and stuff. So let's say you're also working in teamworks or in shared spaces and you're not pulling up your weight. It's kind of like that person who shows up in projects and basically kind of lets someone in the group basically do the work, all the work. And it could be either way, where you could be the person doing the work and allowing others to take credit sometimes for your own work because you're nice, or because you feel bad, or because you want to be a helping person, or because you just don't know how to say, hey, do your work, or you could be the person that shows up and wants to take credit maybe for the job that somebody else did, or just like it wasn't really necessary of you, quote unquote, or asked because they don't think you're capable of doing such tedious things, that they kind of have these assumptions of you already. Like Neptune is is a projecting type of planet, so the good, the bad, the ugly will be projected onto you, and it really just depends on who it is, on how their placements are too, whether they would go great with your chart or just very bad with your chart. Do keep that in mind, that there's going to be people that really want to work with you and take into consideration that your workflow is very not linear. So like example, your task can be like step 1, write your name, step 2, organize these paperworks, documents, step 3, clean up this. Like you might not do that in order because your mind doesn't process things the same way. It's just it's not I think it's having its opposing planet, because Pisces and Virgo are opposing energies, isn't all. I think people always want to take the worst, when I do think there's positive qualities to learn when there's opposing energies. You will do things not the way people might want you to, but you'll manage somehow, but it will definitely take you some time. I do think you have to do a lot of trials and errors when it comes to how you work with people and how people work with you. So remember, boundaries are also important. So learning your own boundaries of how much you're capable of, or how much you're not allowing yourself to step up to the plate, because people just assume that you're a pushover, or people assume that you're not as ambitious, and sometimes you just need that little push, because it's there is a mental process here, because this is Mercury. That's the house. The house of Mercury, or one of the houses. So it is a planet that wants to be analytical. Well, not a planet, a house that wants to be analytical. So putting your creativity with analytical terms, putting your creativity with proper routines, putting your creativity in a working space, and how can you make that pull through, bringing it how did I want to say that, to the front, not just from your mind, where it can be very, I'm having the poor choice of words right now, but basically bringing it from your mind in the 2D world to the 3D world, which is an actual house of, like, an earth house, which is basically like seen there, like it's being able to be touched, like your work can be touched, critiqued, analyzed, shared, like it's something that is a physical thing. So do keep that in mind, that you might take some time to eventually learn these things, or you might have some maybe some hang-ups when it comes to how you interact with people in this working space. Maybe it just has to do with the fact that people might not see your full potential, and you might not see your full potential because you're always being cut short, or you're always getting the short end of the stick, or people don't think you're up for a challenge because you're not someone that speaks, like, just visually. It is a very visual planet. Or you don't even talk this way. You're not someone that talks business, like, all the way. You talk with softness. It's more a tone of, like, a spiritual tone, or a tone of belief, or a tone of understanding and compassion. Doesn't always read as a tone of ambition, of, like, pushing people, of aggressiveness, of energy. So maybe that's why people might not have the best view of you in this workspace dynamic between you and others and your coworkers. Or maybe you just I slipped at the top of my head right now. You might know how you want to say things and approach things, but it might not come out directly the way you want to, because it can be a struggle to be direct. It's like you're thinking about it, and when it comes out, it doesn't sound as convincing, or it doesn't sound as practical. There's the practicality that wants to be heard, but it's like push and pull with this placement. So you might realize that from time to time, when you have your creative jobs, or when you're forced to kind of push that on non-creative jobs, which can be like you working at, this is such an eclectic type of area where you can be working at, but maybe you're working as a cashier, or maybe you're working as a sales floor person, I forget what they're called, sales assistant, or maybe you're just working at a bank. Like, what it's basically telling you is that you're going to bring up that creativity in that space, because maybe not everybody might naturally come out with this energy, but you might not have so much issue being creative. It's just basically showing that consistently and consecutively, for you to be trusted with that. Oh, this person, they can handle decorations, they can handle the outreach stuff, they can handle talking to the community, or they can handle these sales because they're good at selling. Like, it's just when you start showing up your extra pizzazz, your extra one-of-a-kind touch, people might start trusting you more. It's like, it's a very ambiguous energy where, like, should I not? But they still kind of treat you like they want to baby you. They want to keep you under the wing, so they don't let you. It's like they might want you to pursue better options and things, but at the end of the day, you might struggle to feel that support in that way of, like, go your own way, go be individual. Like, it might just be like, stick around with me and I'll make it easier for you, or stick around, like, not always maliciously, but sometimes it's just like they just don't trust you enough to pursue things on your own space and own time. It really is about learning to believe in yourself and your work, and how you shouldn't be taken advantage of all the time when it comes to other people. People might also take advantage of you because you're someone that might be, even at that, some of you might be very consistent with places and jobs, and you have a lot of love and stuff, but people might think, oh, it's because this person really likes to do all these things that they might consider you first as the first option to basically work on those crappy schedules, or maybe because like I mentioned this on previous houses too, like Neptune struggles to find that respect from people and places and houses, so you might struggle to get that respect from people, to basically not cross those boundaries of, hey, these are my off days, I was going to go to the beach, I was going to go to the doctors, like I was gonna do errands, my day-to-day errands, and you're just wasting my time. Like, I have to show up now because nobody else is showing up. So it feels like sometimes you might struggle to basically have people show up for you too, the same way you show up for people, because you believe in compassion and understanding, and somehow you might not receive that all the time. It's vice versa. So that can apply for some people. I also think that with this placement, your pets your pets are going to be very, sometimes you might be one of the people who ends up rescuing them, right? And this applies to a lot of these other houses too, not just specifically this one, but this one specifically, the pet house, right? So of course your pets are going to be a little bit more needy, for example, and needy not like attention, but more so needy in the way that they're sick and they need attention and care, or they're weak, or they're older animals, right? And you're basically there to be their companion, and vice versa, and then see them through the end of their final time, like days, right? So it might be bittersweet, but you're someone that's very compassionate when it comes to animals. And it might stem from a place where, because you wanted to help other people, it stems from a childhood memory maybe, where you wanted to help but you couldn't do anything about it, and now you're like, I have to do this. It's just something that's like in your heart. Or also because you might have had some unfortunate experiences in viewing stuff. Maybe you might also relate to other water planets here when it comes to pets, that can be maybe a little bit emotionally scarring or traumatizing, fill in the blanks, because I'm not trying to be so descriptive in this sense, but you wanting to save them when they don't have a voice, or save them when they are in need, be the voice for animals that don't have a voice, and speaking up for them, and maybe even trying to be alternative lifestyles when it comes to eating, like being pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan, maybe I wouldn't necessarily say keto, but it just feels like you would try to at least try once in a while, or every now and then, to be more considerate of those options, because you really have a big heart and compassion when it comes to animals. And it can break your heart to maybe critique yourself a little bit when it comes to not doing enough. So first and foremost, you should always be very forgiving of yourself. And this, anyone who has placements in Virgo should really take a page from their own book, because they can overlook so many things when it comes to other people, but when it comes to themselves, man, do they really tear themselves apart. Like, they really go hard on themselves. Like, you should be more disciplined, you should be more careful, you should be more thoughtful, you should be more perfectionist, perfect. And it can stem other mental health issues, right? And you might not even know it also, because Neptune blurs the line of the obvious things. So the obvious answers might not be always the most direct form of contact when it comes to you also. So you might not see the signs, but others might see it. And you might not believe it either when they point it out sometimes. And you're like, no, of course not. You might, not that you necessarily might be delusional, but you might sometimes lie to yourself about how things are okay, quote unquote, but they might not be okay, just because you want to believe that they're okay. So remember, your health comes first too. So keep in mind that can be a struggle when it comes to people believing that you might not feel okay all the time, because maybe when they see you, you look okay, but inside you're not okay. It's one of those placements where if you have invisible issues, illnesses, chronic health issues, anything that's not see not seeable, not visually being able to be seen, people might just not believe you. It's invisible to others, but it is very visible to you, but you just don't know how to address it. It's one of those things where you're gonna have to try a little bit of everything, and maybe conventional ways of medicine might not be something that you might find the answers for right away. And if you do, it would take such a long time. Like, do be patient with this placement, because whatever you first think it might be, it might not be that. It's such a blurry planet, and it's such a confusing planet that getting to the root might be a little bit tricky, because it could be like, example, like if you have, because I definitely think this is a placement where you would have allergies, maybe food allergies, but allergies is like big with Neptune, and with everybody else too who has Neptune in whatever placement. Allergies. Your immune system's weak, you get more sick often. So maybe, like, example, if you have a little cold or flu, and you're like, well, I keep getting a cold and flu pretty often, but I don't know how to deal with it. It's just very blurry. You're like, I thought I was getting better, but maybe it keeps coming back because you are overworking yourself, and your body doesn't have enough resting time to basically recover, because you keep doing things over and over, like on your free time, or when you have the good amount of energy to fight stuff off, that you're like, well, this is gonna be my productive day, so I'm gonna do things. So it can be like that, or it can be because you're consuming something that's making you flare up. This is the digestive house too. Sensitive stomach, maybe some things that you're eating are flaring you up, and your immune system is causing you to not feel great. Maybe you have, like, I don't know, like a sensitivity to nuts or oatmeal or milk or something, and you could still eat it, and it's flaring you up, and you're like, I don't know what it is. So it's like you're trying your best to figure it out, but you never get to the root cause of it. And then maybe eventually you get to it, but you couldn't even recognize it because you're like eating something maybe that, I don't know, example, like you had a salad, but you put nuts in there, and then many other things. You're like, well, I don't know, it could have been this, could have been that, could have been that. So it's one of those things that you have to be patient. It'll if it's transiting, just, be patient that there's gonna be not that great of a body disposition. And when you learn to kind of not trigger yourself so much into to reacting your immune system because of maybe that, or maybe because of a mental health, or like an issue that you're not saying outside, it's just something that's eating you up inside, and you're just keeping it in. You could also fluctuate in weight too, and just swell up, swelling. Retention of water, retention of fluids, other fluids, retention of maybe just weight in your stomach. Nobody else, like, it really just depends. But this is the placement where you just might get a little bit pudgier, and doesn't mean you look ugly, but you might notice that from years prior that you might have been much more healthier, and you're struggling to lose the weight because Neptune's here, right? So it might be a little bit of a trial and error thing as well, to basically figure out what's working with you and what's not, because at some point you also realize what worked with you when you were younger, it's not working with you as you're getting older. Your body does want different things, as Neptune does too. It's like Neptune matures, and Neptune will show you the way on how to basically get rid of that fogginess, but it really does take you some time, because it wants you to basically live up to your potential, live up to the plate, because I know you can accept it as a challenge when it comes to any of these challenges, whether it's work, people, your pets, anything of your day-to-day life that might not make it easy for you. Like if you might struggle to basically clean your room, for example, and you're like, gotta go. Then you come back and it's a mess, and then you beat yourself up about it because you left your house a mess, or your room, and you try your best to basically cope, but you're really bad at organizing because you could get distracted. Like, oh look, I found this yearbook, oh I found these books, oh I found this makeup, oh I forgot about these things. Like you forget about things, but then you get distracted. What was the original purpose of you fixing up the place, right? So be compassionate, be understanding that you might not get it on the first try, but you eventually will. So do keep that in mind, and I will probably add more notes to this because I really like this, but I don't think I ended. I've been saying that for the last videos. I always want to add notes, so I'm going to continue to say that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. So bye everyone.